Hi, welcome back to Lucky Chipmunk. Ever since the conception of the first ever motor car, by Karl Benz, the Benz Patent-Motorwagen, there have been some extremely great cars, and others not so great. Here are some of the worst car flops in history. Number 1. The 1923 Chevrolet Series C, copper-cooled. Chevy was always behind Ford back in the early days of motoring, so Delco's head engineer Charles Kettering had a great idea of fitting his small air-cooled, four-cylinder engine that he had designed, into the small new Chevy that was being designed at the time. Although the copper-finned, overhead valve engine had some great attributes for powering a small motor vehicle, it also had some bad ones too. The little Series C Chevy was hurried into production to try and keep up with Ford's Tin Lizzie, which was Ford's answer to the small, affordable car market at the time. Unfortunately, even after failing virtual internal tests at GM, Chevy still used Charles's engine, plagued with problems. Upon delivery to customers in 1923, the little Chevy had big issues, as the copper fins were not able to keep the engine cool enough at low speed. This led to engine failures, overheating, and even fires. Chevy planned to produce 50,000 of the little Series Cs but only produced 759 cars before Chevy stopped production, and recalled all the remaining cars, which were eventually destroyed. Only 2 of them remain. It's said that 259 cars were destroyed due to fires before they even left the factory. Despite this huge embarrassment at Chevy, by the end of the decade, Chevy was outselling Ford with its water-cooled engine-powered cars. Number 2. 1957 Ford Edsel. 1957 was looking to be a good year for Ford, however, things didn't work out as well as they had planned. The Ford Edsel started to be developed by Ford in 1955, and 1 year before its debut, Ford had done some major, teaser ad campaigns, trying to bump up interest in the new luxury model, the Edsel. The Ford Edsel model range consisted of 18 different models, each with different options and paint schemes. 90 different color combinations could be had if you ordered a brand new Edsel. Unfortunately, the Edsel was plagued by quality and reliability issues from its release date in September 1957. The Edsel didn't sell well either. Customers said it was either too expensive or too ugly. Ford only sold 120,000 Edsels before production was canned in 1959. This left Ford with a loss of $350 million, which equates to $2.8 billion in today's money. Number 3. The DeLorean DMC12. Made famous, after its demise, by Hollywood's box office hit Back to the Future. John DeLorean, after leaving his job as the vice president of car and truck production for the entire General Motors line in 1973, John decided to follow his dream of manufacturing and selling his own car. This was not without problems along the way. John encountered many obstacles throughout his journey. Such as money, John had managed to talk his way into getting funding from Northern Ireland on the condition that the car was built there. Other companies such as Renault, Lotus, and Volvo were involved in the DeLorean, manufacturing and supplying parts to the car maker. Release dates were constantly pushed back due to production delays, and eventually, the car was released in January 1981. The public wasn't exactly excited when they saw and drove the completed DMC12. High price and low horsepower was a complaint from car reviewers at the time. In 1982, lackluster sales of the car resulted in a financial problem for the company. John even tried to traffic drugs to bankroll the DMC12 production costs and try to keep the business afloat. Unfortunately for John, and the DeLorean Motor Company, he was caught trafficking drugs, following a sting operation by the FBI. John was sentenced on October 19, 1982, for trafficking cocaine. Later he was found not guilty in August of 1984. Even though John was free, the DeLorean Motor Company had fallen into bankruptcy and John's reputation was not in great shape. This marked the end for DeLorean and the DMC12. Number 4. 1982 to 1988 Cadillac Cimarron. Times were tough for the Big Three in the 1970s and 1980s. The constant pressure from the U.S. government demanding cars to be more fuel efficient and making them achieve higher emissions standards took a toll on the U.S. car manufacturers. Cadillac was one of them. For a long time they had been the gold standard, providing large V8-powered luxury land yachts. Under threat from overseas companies such as Audi, BMW, and Saab with their smaller luxury fuel-efficient sedans, Cadillac had to come up with something to compete. In a mad dash to come up with a car to appease the stringent standards, and sell to their loyal customers before they moved on, Cadillac came up with the Cimarron. The Cimarron was based on the J-car platform that was already used by Chevrolet and Buick. Cadillac attempted to distance the Cimarron from the lower-class models by adding features like leather seats, air conditioning, and a fully instrumented dash. This resulted in the car costing almost double the price of the Chevy Cavalier on which it was based. American car dealers didn't know how to sell small cars like this, especially at twice the price. Late improvements to the car were still ignored by buyers, and in 1998 it all came to an end and the Cimarron was no longer in production. Even Cadillac knew the Cimarron was a terrible car when they released it to the public. The car had lost Cadillac a lot of loyal customers and thousands of sales to the German luxuries, exactly what they didn't want. Have you owned a terrible vehicle? Or maybe even a Cimarron? Comment down below, we'd love to hear from you. Number 5. 1995 to 2000 Oldsmobile Aurora. Leading up to 1995, Oldsmobile was suffering from lost sales. Not wanting to be faded out of the GM lineup, Oldsmobile needed a car to get them far away from certain death. They came up with the Aurora. The Aurora had some pretty unique styling and an all-new 4-liter V8 engine, in an attempt to bring back some of its long-lost customers. Released in 1995, the Aurora seemed like it was going well and Oldsmobile sold 45,000 cars in the first year. Many changes were made throughout the years as sales started falling. With the release of the second generation, sales propped up to 53,000 in 2001. For Oldsmobile, this still wasn't enough, as sales plummeted the next year, resulting in Oldsmobile eventually being removed from the GM lineup in 2004. Number 6. 1996 to 1999 GM EV1. GM in 1996 had just released the first car ever to wear the GM badge and the first car from GM to be all-electric. The hype was huge for this EV. 25,000 people stepped up and wanted to join the GM EV1 lease program. It seemed the car was actually a good car with very low running costs, fast charging times, decent range, and a respectable drag coefficient. Over the next 4 years, GM had produced 1,117 EV1s and seemed like life for the car was going to be good. However, on March 2, 2000, GM recalled 450 EV1s due to a faulty charge port that could cause a fire. 16 thermal incidents had been recorded and one EV1 was destroyed by fire. By 2002, GM had cut funding to the EV1 program, believing EVs would take away sales from conventionally powered vehicles. GM stopped all current leases, contradicting lease contracts. GM had all the EV1s collected and unrelentlessly crushed most of them. This was the end for GM's EV1. Number 7. Jaguar XType. In 1999, Ford had just purchased the luxury car company, Jaguar. By the year 2000, Jaguar had just released the XType, which was an attempt to compete with the BMW 3 Series. However, the XType was front-wheel drive, and based on the Ford Mondeo, it also suffered in the quality department compared to its rival brands. The poor man's Jaguar was still in production for another 9 years until it was eventually axed in 2009. The XType somewhat tarnished the brand's name. Fortunately, its successor, the XE sedan, has partially revitalized Jaguar's image. Number 8. 2000 to 2005 Pontiac Aztec. The Aztec was Pontiac's answer to the Isuzu Viacross, and was probably one of the most poorly styled cars to come out of a car manufacturer that should have known better. Radical styling aimed towards younger buyers missed the goal altogether and as a result, did not make the projected sales. The Pontiac Aztec had a 3.4-liter V6, a 4-speed automatic transmission, and was available in front-wheel or all-wheel variants. It was a versatile practical car, but the styling put people off buying it, except for 119,692 people who must have needed eye surgery. This was a nail in the coffin for Pontiac, and in 2009, after 80 years, Pontiac was no longer. Thanks for watching. Please take a second to like and subscribe. Here are some other videos you may want to check out.